Hello and welcome back, my friends. Today we're going to be pruning a pomegranate tree. Now, you want to prune your pomegranates in the wintertime while the tree is still dormant. And although it's nice and sunny and beautiful, the birds are out today, it's still only mid-February, the tree has yet to awake. This is a great time to get out and do your pruning. So today in this pruning video, I'm going to be going over with you how you can prune your tree for maximum fruit production, overall tree health, and to create a nice, shapely, beautiful looking tree, or shrub for that matter, as the pomegranate has more of a bushy, shrubby growth habit. All right, so before we jump into pruning this tree, I wanted to talk about proper tools and attire. Now, it's really important when working on a pomegranate, just like as with rose bushes, you don't want to be tearing yourself up. It really makes it a miserable job, as where if you're properly dressed and you've got the right tools, it can be quite meditative and fun to prune a pomegranate tree, believe it or not. So first and foremost, you're going to want to have a long sleeve shirt, nice flannel shirt, works really well. I also recommend getting yourself a pair of nice leather gloves with the extenders on here that cover the forearm. These are commonly referred to as rose pruning gloves, and these work wonderful. They do a great job just giving you that extra protection, so as you're reaching into the center of this tree, you're not going to be getting tore up, and you're also going to help to save the sleeves of your shirt. So these are useful for pruning many different types of plants, but especially the pomegranates. I highly recommend it. Now, as far as pruning tools go for this tree, there's only two tools that I'm going to be using, and that is a nice high quality hand saw. This is made by Silky. This is the Pocket Boy, the 130 Professional, and I'll drop a link to this and the secateurs that I use, which are the Felcos. Nice pair of hand pruners, nice and sharp, high quality. These are going to make the job much easier for you. It's going to give you nice clean cuts, which is going to help for the health of the tree. Now, before I start any pruning job, it's really important that my tools are clean and sharp. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over my secateurs with this Corona sharpening tool. I'm just going to do a quick swipe or two on the back end of the blade, and the same thing on the front, probably go over about 4 times at a slight angle. That's going to give you a nice sharp edge there. So quick and easy. I highly recommend that you go ahead and do that before you get started. And next, I'm going to quickly sanitize these pruners. Now, if you got a bottle of alcohol or vinegar, that'll work fine. I always have some of these alcohol prep pads in my pocket just ready to go, because I'm always going from tree to tree, bush to bush, doing pruning, and it's just nice to have these on hand. Really easy to just do a quick clean and sanitization. This way you're not spreading any disease, any fungal issues, bacterial problems between your plants. So now my pruners are good to go, and with the saw I'm just going to do a quick cleaning. No need to sharpen this blade. Alright, so now we're good to go. So let's take a closer look at this tree before I start cutting anything out. And I just want to quickly explain to you what we're going for. Now, if you look towards the center of this tree here, what you see is a lot of upright new growth coming right up the center of the tree. We're going to be taking the majority of this out. The wood is greener, darker color, growing right out the middle, so skinnier little branches. If you have a couple of these smaller branches growing slightly outward, maybe it's filling a gap that you have in the tree, then you may want to leave that. But for the most part, we're going to be pruning all those little smaller branches out. So that's usually how I start. I like to work from the center outward. So once we get all those new shoots out from the center of the tree, then it's going to give us a better idea of the other branches that we need to prune to get this tree nice and shapely and growing healthy and productive. So 90% of these cuts I should be able to make with my pruners here. And after I've cut a bunch of these out, what I like to do is just bunch it out and pull it downward out of the tree. This helps to prevent damage and makes quick work out of this process. And now I can continue pruning. You just want to look up from time to time and make sure that the branch or the limb that you're cutting is one that you want out. Now here's an example of a younger shoot that's growing kind of outward, and it's filling a gap over here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one in. And this more mature shoot right here is actually growing right up the middle. And we don't want that, because once this tree starts to leaf out, it's going to fill in really quick. If you have too much center growth, what ends up happening is it shades a lot of the smaller limbs out. It also restricts airflow, which is important for the health of the tree. We're going to go ahead and take this shoot out of the tree. And sometimes it can be difficult to get really close to the base, but you just do the best you can. This is also a good time to go around and just kind of clear out any of the mulch that's gathered right in between all these branches here. It's good to have the mulch around the base of the tree, but in the center, I like to open that up. And later I'll give this a little blast of water too. That also helps us to get a little closer with our cuts. So you can go over it again. So we're going to take this one out. Something like this, it wouldn't be a big deal to leave it, but since I do have a really nice handsaw here, I'm going to go ahead and clean this out a little bit, and just be careful as you're cutting through that you don't skip ahead and cut into the bark of the limb that we're keeping in the tree. Yeah. All right. So we're just about done working here at the base of the tree, cutting out all that center shoot growth. And if this was all you were to do on your pruning, in just a couple minutes, you've done a tremendous service for the tree. You're definitely going to improve the health and the vitality of the tree, the fruit set that occurs. Now that I'm almost done here, I'm just going to go around and clean up a couple of these cuts. You can see here, I can get a little closer on that cut. Take off some of this dead wood growing here towards the base. Don't need that branch. Notice how I just turned my secateurs around this way? Sometimes you can get a better angle by twisting them around. So always try to get the best angle possible when you're pruning. And now, hopefully you can see this, we've got a couple branches here that are growing off a more mature shoot. We're going to take those out. And here's some more growth growing right into the center. And here I want to give you a close-up view. I'm going to be taking this branch out here. And what we want to aim for when we're doing this pruning is to cut right at where the collar ends. The collar is this little part that bulges out where your side branches connect to the main branch or stalk of the tree. And that's what's going to give you the best tree health. So we're going to get right at the edge of that collar and cut. And that's perfect. Nice clean cut. That's going to heal nicely. Now I'm just going to quickly go through here and prune off any other inward growth that we don't need. So all these branches, if we let them go, they're just going to run into each other. We want to create an outward growing structure where the majority of the branches are flowing outward from the tree. Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. We got this branch right here. It's just growing right into the center of the tree. If we continue to let that go, what's going to end up happening is it's eventually going to start rubbing against these other stalks or trunks of the tree and create some damage. It's also going to, again, restrict that airflow and stop the sun from getting full penetration. All right, so this is already looking a whole lot better. Something else I want to mention when you're doing your pruning is it's better to under prune on your first pass rather than over prune. We never want to take more than 30% of the tree off in one growing season. So keep that in mind. That's going to create a lot more shoot growth coming from the base of the tree and less fruit production and a lot more green growth occurring as the tree tries to restabilize and balance. So we want to kind of limit the amount we're taking out of the tree at any particular time. And if you're pruning properly, you're not going to have to worry about that, because if you pruned properly the year before, then the upcoming year, there's not going to be all that much to prune out because you've developed a nice structure. However, if you've gone several years without properly pruning your fruit trees, that's when you're going to want to keep that 30% rule in mind and never go over that. And instead, it might take a couple of years before you can get your tree back into balance. All right, so I've stepped back once again and I'm taking a look at the tree, and there's a couple limbs that are really sticking out to me that need to go out. This is one, again, growing right up towards the center of the tree. So we're going to go ahead and prune this guy out. And here's the main branch, and here's the collar, and we're going to cut just above that. And that was pretty good. Now it's these type of branches here that you could leave or take out. It's really up to you. Although it is growing towards the center of the tree, we've already got enough openness here to where it's not really that big of a deal. So for now, I'm just going to leave that. I may come back later and take it out. And over here, we've got this limb crashing into this limb. So which one do we want to take out? Well, we actually don't have to take this whole limb out. We could go just above one of these outward facing nodes and just kind of trim it back here, which is what we're going to do. So in this case, we left some of the limbs so we can get some fruit, but we stopped them from growing into each other. And here's another example where it's growing into each other. And we'll cut back about right here. There you go, we've solved that problem. Here we've got a cluster of branches, just too much density. We're going to take this one right out the middle there. And this one as well. That opened it up quite a bit. And it makes obvious what needs to come out next. So if this seems like a lot of work, it's really not. If I didn't have the camera up, if I wasn't talking about what I was doing, I could whip this all out in about 10-15 minutes, and to me that's hardly any time at all. So now I'm just going to quit talking and let you guys observe for a minute while I go around and continue this process. And again, some of these cuts, I'm not taking out the whole branch, I'm just pruning back to an outward facing node. In this case, this branch is going to come out this way. Again, just taking a step back, looking at the tree. I'm pretty happy with where we're at now. Just a few more cuts and I'm going to call it good. And you can see now with my cuts, I'm a little bit more focused on bringing the height of the tree down. I like to keep it at a manageable level. Makes it easier to harvest your fruit. These low-hanging branches as well. I had quite a bit of fruit actually touching the ground last year, which isn't a bad thing, but I want to bring it up a little bit. And with each one of these cuts, we're taking away all the energy that this plant would be utilizing to grow out and leaf and create flowers on these branches. And instead, it's able to focus all its energy on what we've left behind. Another thing about pruning the pomegranate, be careful for your eyes. There's been a couple times where it got really close to poking me in the eye. So you definitely want to be careful with that. You might even want to wear some sunglasses or eye protection when working on these trees. All right, guys, well, I'm really happy with where we're at now. Overall, we've got a nice shapely tree or shrub, however you want to look at it. Got a nice open center here. We've got plenty of room now for the air to flow throughout the tree. We've taken out the majority of the cross branching. We could come by again later in the season, in the springtime, and do a few maintenance cuts if we need to. But for what it is, if we just left it be as we are right now, we're going to have a very healthy, productive pomegranate tree. Well, everyone, that's going to do it for now. I sure do appreciate you tuning in to today's video. If you live in an area where you're able to grow the pomegranate tree and you're not yet doing so, I highly recommend it. It's quite ornamental. It's a beautiful addition to any landscape. The fruits are delicious, nutritious, and if you buy them organically from the store, they're quite expensive. And so with that, I wish you all a great rest of your day. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care. I'll be talking to you again soon. Well, we've got the chickens kind of hiding back there behind the artichoke. And I've got this one pomegranate that had been hanging on the tree. I leave a few every year for the birds to feed on. This one's still in pretty good shape. I'm going to crack it open and lay it over there and see if the chickens come and get at it. I'm sure they will. Yep, that didn't take long. No need to fight over it, ladies. Here's another one I had over there.